Hello, I'm Christine Nixon, and this is the first of a series of videos that we want to produce as part of my new website, christinenixon.com.au. The videos will be over the next 4 or 5 sessions covering issues around organisational change. And today I want to do 2 of those subjects. And I suppose you might say, well, how much do you know about organisational change? I guess perhaps at the end of the series you might say, well, a lot. Over the last 40 years I've been involved with many organisations, obviously the police in the main, but many other community organisations and of course the Bushfire Authority, working with communities who had change forced upon them. So this video will hopefully share some of my lessons. The first one I wanted to talk about is about being respectful for the people that you're wanting to lead. People who perhaps don't want to change, perhaps don't want to see there could be things done differently. But in this case, I think it's about being respectful. And I read a book a while ago and by a guy called Hugh Mackay, and it's called What Makes Us Tick. And it's an analysis of Australians and what they think. And it says some really interesting things when you're looking at people and thinking about, how can I get them to change? How can I get them to be part of seeing that we could do things differently? And how can we then adopt it and do it differently? And he talks about things like I guess having a sense of purpose in people's life, having people involved, a place that they feel part of, connections to people, being taken seriously. Those sorts of things I think are important. And when you start a process, if that's not the way you think about the people you're working with, then you're going to end up with a lot of problems. You could try to be the dictator and tell them what to do, but it's not always the way to go. If you want people involved, then think about where they come from. Victoria Police had 4 generations, so it was very different ranges of people. But once you engage them, respectfully think about their attitudes and try and pull that all together as a way to go forward. I think that makes a real difference. So give it a try. Just simply looking at people through a different framework, not that they're going to be against the change, but maybe if you're respectful of them, take time to listen to their issues, think about their experience, then that might make a difference. My second one is around the limits. I remember going into Victoria Police and seeing an organisation that was very busy, that thought it was working really hard towards achieving its goals, but what I saw was there were so many limits on a big organisation and obviously on individuals. And so when you think about, what stops organisations, what's the history, what's the experience that they've been through, we'll just wait this one out, can often be the case people have. And so sometimes you've got to say, what's the limit? I remember going to a Father's Day breakfast and there were 500 dads and me. And I said to the dads at the time, did anybody ever say to you that you're useless and hopeless and never going to amount to anything? And about 25% of them put up their hands, and I remember saying to them, and if any of you ever said that to your kids, and about 25% put up their hand. And I said, they're the limits. They're the kinds of things that stop people doing the things that they should be able to do. They kind of stay in people's heads that I'm not really worth it, that I'm not good enough, that I don't have the kind of skills. Now I know in some cases we might not have those skills and we might not have the capacity. Dad used to say, Christine, you'll never be an Olympic hurdler, and he was right. But there are other things you can do, and I guess that's the piece I want you to think about. It's what stops you, what stops your organisation, and is it real? I remember going to talk to one of our commanders in Victoria Police, and I said to him, we have to reduce stolen motor vehicles. And he said, not possible. We're doing the hardest we can, we're working really well. I said, well, you better get out there and start trying, because we're going to actually tomorrow announce it to the community that you're the new champion to figure out how we are going to reduce stolen motor vehicles. You might say, well, Christine, does facing your limits really make a difference? Does it really bring about change? Well, of course it does. It's about having an attitude. It's about looking. And so what happened with the stolen motor vehicles? Well, he came back a number of years later after we'd worked together, and the whole community and organisation had worked together, and stolen motor vehicles was substantially reduced from 48,000 cars down to 17. And then you might say, well, what about the dads, who listen to you talk about the limits that they have? One of the dads at the end came back to me and he said, thanks. He said, my dad always said I was useless and hopeless. He said, and I believed him up till now. And he said, I've got a business and I'm good at it. He said, but I've never gone for the really big pieces of work that I know I can do, but I've never been game enough. And he said, after today, I'm going to give it a try. And I said, gee, I hope I'm right. And he said, it doesn't matter, because I've had a try. Give it a try.